Hey everyone, how's it going? Sorry for disappearing for almost a month. The reason behind that being, well, basically, school. I wanted to finish this project 2 weeks ago, but school said, screw you and your plans, here's more homework that you need to do for tomorrow. Seriously, I would do all of my homework one day, only to come back the next day to see my to-do list like this. So yeah, school's been really fun lately. Yes, that is sarcasm, by the way. In any case, I've been dealing with a lot of stuff lately, and I'm really sorry for not uploading before. But last week, I finally got the time to sit down and finish the project. So, here it is. Let's get into it. So, a little more than a month ago, I believe, I decided that I wanted to participate in the Pirate Software Game Jam. And that sounds great and all, right? But then, life decided to give me a big punch in the face and basically say to me, a really big f*** you. So yeah, things happened, and I wasn't able to finish the project on time in order to submit it to the jam. Then, a few weeks went by, and the events of my first video happened. I kind of forgot about the whole project, honestly, until I saw the game design document just hanging around in my PC. So I thought, hey, why not? The concept is already done at this point, so I might just as well develop it as a practice exercise. So, if I remember correctly, the theme, or well, rather the themes in this case of the jam, were shadows and alchemy. With that in mind, I ended up developing a game idea where you, the player, play as a thief. But not a bad thief, you know, more like a justice thief, stealing from the bad guys. What would you be stealing? Well, potions. Why? Yeah, I didn't really think that far ahead. Anyways, so you're a thief, and you steal potions stored in a real big fortress, right? But the game has to have some level of difficulty in order to keep the player entertained. So, before you can steal each potion located at the end of each level, you have to evade the multiple guards that are, well, guarding, as they should. Once you complete a level and get a new potion, you need to use that same potion in the next levels, due to the fact that there will be multiple magic barriers that you can only destroy with the potions. If the color of the potion you throw matches the color of the wall, then it means that the potion is able to destroy the wall. So, for example, let's say you see a blue barrier in front of you, that means you need to throw a blue potion in order to get rid of it, and continue navigating. So yeah, that's basically it. I did all of this in 1 week, although I think that if it wasn't for the ridiculous amount of homework that I had, I could have probably finished it like in 5 days. So yeah, let's get into how I develop all of the project, shall we? In case you want to know, I develop all of my games in the Godot engine. If you want to know why I decided to stick with Godot rather than other engine, let me know, and I'll do a future video about it. Okay everyone, I want you to meet Bob. Bob is just how I like to call my prototyping asset that I use. I know that he's just a rectangle, but giving him a name gives him more personality. So, the first thing that I developed was the player movement, and additionally, I also added a dash mechanic that you are able to use in order to evade the guards. You know how in Dishonored you kind of have this blink/dash ability to move faster in the direction you're moving? Well, I wanted to replicate that effect, in 2D, of course. So, here you can see that the player is able to do exactly that. The next thing I did was to add an enemy. And I literally just made it in Paint, like, in 2 minutes, and you can say he's Bob's evil twin. Okay, so what I did was basically make the guard move in the X-axis. You will see me later adding some collision shapes in the map that make the guard change the direction they're facing and moving. I also added 2 raycasts. Why 2? Well, I found it more convenient to have one to detect when the guard should flip, and other to detect the player itself. When this raycast activates, the guard will follow the player for as long as they are in a light area, meaning that in order for the player to become hidden again, they need to return to the shadow area. Here, they will no longer be followed. Here at the end, you can see me testing if the guard is moving correctly. Evidently, I made a mistake here, because I forgot to add the plus symbol here, but I eventually figured it out and got it to work. Ignore the camera placement for the moment. I also added a collision shape to the guards, so that when the guard finally catches up to the player, the level restarts. The next thing was to actually have a level to play in, so I follow a tip from Nonsensical to this channel, where I saw he used a basic array square in order to make a first layout of the level. In my case, it is just a 64 by 64 gray square with a black outline made in paint. If you're wondering why I'm using paint, well, it just works. It's already installed in my PC, it's convenient. When I need to make some more complete assets or more complex ones, I do use Procreate, but it is not necessary for this game, so yeah. So here you can just see me put in a lot of tiles in order to create the level, but then I had another problem. I did not have the slightest idea of how I wanted the levels to be. Now, I'm not an expert level designer, but I think I can at least try to make something good. So here you can see me using my notebook to make a layout that made sense to me and the player. Here I consider how and when I wanted to introduce the player to different game mechanics. So once I was done with that, I literally just had to recreate it in the game. Okay, so the guards, player, shadow areas, and collisions were already working at this point, but there wasn't really anything to represent where the guards could walk, which are the areas with light. So the next thing I had to do was to actually add lights to the levels. Did I have the slightest idea of how to do this? Absolutely not. But like anything in this world, we can learn. So I started researching, and after a couple of hours I already had the lighting system working in the game. There were some problems with the shadows that I had to solve, but once it was done, this was the final product. Oh hell yeah, dude, look at that, it looks awesome. Well, at least in my opinion. I also added a canvas modulate node to the scene to give it more depth, and a light to kind of represent the night light to the entrance of the fortress. Right, so here you can see me adding lights to the guards as well, just to have a way like to represent their vision range. But I had a problem where the guard would also detect you when you were in the shadow area. And while it worked, because once the guard collisioned with the shadow area, it would no longer follow you. But it didn't really make sense, right? Since I wanted the guard just to detect the player if they were in the light. So I had to play a little bit with the collision layers, and eventually got it to work. After that, I also thought it would be a good idea to have static guards every now and then in the levels, not only to have enemy variations, but also to have a more balanced difficulty, since having the player always just dashing and moving around would be kind of tedious, at least to me. So I literally just copied the behavior from my normal guard into the static guard node and eliminated the movement. After that, I also made a potion node that would work as a potion that the player has to grab at the end of each level, and also a transition area, just to detect if the player has already grabbed the potion, and if they did, the next level would be loaded. Okay, so at this point it was already Wednesday, and I decided to stop here since I had class the next day. On Thursday morning, since I had some free time to kill, I opened up the project to work fixing some bugs that I encountered. Surely the game would work fine, right? I mean, last night I just saved it and turned off my laptop. Well, I was wrong. Turns out I opened the project in my laptop and the game just stopped working as it was doing the night before. Or that's what I thought. After digging and digging for corrupted files or anything of the sort, I encountered two problems. The font file that I was using for the messages in the game was causing Godot to take a lot of time to build a scene, and also to save it. I still have yet to figure out what is causing that, since I have the same file in another project and it's working fine over there. But, well, fixing it was just too much trouble, so I just decided to use another font. The other problem was that the guards were acting really weird, as if they were acting faster than before. If you have more experience than me in Godot, I think you kind of know at this point what I did wrong, or, well, rather forgot to do. You see, there is this thing in game engines, or at least in the ones that I have used, that is a thing called delta. I'm really bad at explaining exactly what delta is, but let's say delta is a necessary component or element, or however you want to call it, in order for the game to work the same in different monitors. So here's an example. Let's say you're playing a game in a 60Hz monitor, but your friend is playing the same game in a 120Hz monitor. Having more hertz in this case means that the monitor refreshes faster, or, well, that it is able to have more frames per second. So, because a lot of functions in game engines directly depend on the refresh rate of your monitor, how is it that the game runs the same and not faster in the 120Hz monitor? Well, it's thanks to delta. So let's say the character in the screen is designed to move 15 pixels each frame. If we just leave that as it is, the character in the second screen will indeed move faster. But if we multiply that by delta, then the character will move the same in both monitors. So here's the thing, my main monitor, the one that I use at home, is 75Hz, and my laptop monitor is actually 120Hz. So you might think, also, did you forget to multiply by delta in the function? No, I did not. I verified multiple times that everything that had to be multiplied by delta was indeed being multiplied. But I noticed that the problem was just in the guards, because when I moved the player around, it was working fine. So I thought there was maybe a problem with how the process function in the guards was being called. And there indeed was. My player was using the physics process function, and my guard was using the process function. After reading the documentation, I realized that the process function is called every single frame of your monitor, so multiplying by delta here just wasn't working. On the other hand, the physics process runs at a fixed frame rate, and I believe it's 60 by default. So yeah, if you're having the same problem or a similar problem, maybe check what process function you're using. Okay, so once I figured that out and everything was back to normal, I just had to implement the throw and magic barrier mechanics. They weren't really anything complicated. The barriers are just nodes to the areas that detect what color is the potion that is being thrown at them. If the color matches their color, then... if the potion color matches their color, then they disappear. If not, then only the potion disappears. Great, everything is done at this point, so now I just designed the other levels, and here you have the final result. So yeah, this is it. I think that the game is kind of fun, and if you want to check it out, you're welcome to do so in my itch.io page, that I will leave in the description below. The game is called Through Flask and Shadows, and it's completely free. I know that the assets still make it kinda look like a prototype, and you will maybe encounter bugs that I either did not encounter or decided to not fix, since this is just a practice project anyways. Currently, there are just 3 levels, but I may or may not add more in the future. Depends on what you guys tell me in the comments. I'm really proud of how this turned out, especially since I didn't know how to do a lot of things when I started it. But I think it turned out better than expected. Anyways, so yeah, this is it for now. I hope that you liked the video, or that at least it made your day a little bit better. I promise to be more consistent with uploads, if my university allows me to. So yeah, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you around.